Was Johnny Gargano enough to save this episode of Raw? Johnny Gargano, probably not. But did I very much enjoy Johnny Gargano's return? Johnny Gargano, yes, I did.
Jesus Christ. That took so... Even you lost, confidence in it by the end there. That was a lot to watch.
I'm Lugo DAD. I'm joined by the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton, your Jam That Champion, no less. Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Monday Night Raw. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here. Give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave your comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. And if you're watching live, join in the live chat and get in your alpha chat.
Yeah.
WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 as I looked at the live chat and see how everyone enjoyed my nailed it.
Yes.
Oof. Jeez. Bloody hell, Luke. That was brutal.
Look, if there's anything we've learned about wrestling, it's not how you get there, it's whether or not the closing moment sells it.
Okay. This episode of Raw is a great example of that.
I enjoyed this episode of Raw. I'm just going to say that I had a really nice time. I'm going to put that right at the beginning.
Here is my issue I had with this episode of Monday Night Raw, which I thought was actually a totally fine episode of Monday Night Raw, saved by a very, very good main event and a fun little closing angle, though I feel like this was the weakest way we could have done this angle. But regardless, for me, the most brutal thing in the show was the lack of wrestling on this 3-hour broadcast.
It's so interesting because I didn't think about that until I watched your review on WrestleTalk, and I was like, oh, actually, you're quite right about that. I just didn't think about it. I think there was something about I was enjoying the show and the flow and the stories and all the stuff that was going on. I just didn't think about it. But yeah, that's true.
A brutal lack of wrestling on this 3-hour broadcast.
Yeah.
It was quite a disappointment. But this was like a final 20-odd minute match to round us out, which is what you want for this IC title picture.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this. The workhorse belt giving you the banger of the week type deal. So I thought the show was kind of built nicely to build towards that.
Yeah.
Because if you have lots of 20-minute bangers, then your own end 20-minute banger doesn't feel quite as special.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's finding... There is an in-between where you have the balance of good wrestling and then entertaining story.
That's where I'm at. We talked about this on our prediction show for Fastlane will be going out tomorrow. And that was kind of our feeling about the Fastlane card compared to the WrestleDream card.
Yeah.
WrestleDream was 14 matches.
Nonsense.
Fastlane is 5.
Similar nonsense, but the other side of the nonsense
spectrum. But there's a happy ground in the middle here where it's every match is given enough time, but it's not 5 matches. 7 or 8 matches is a good amount of matches for a wrestling show, a pay-per-view, and a TV show. I would say probably about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. No, 30 to 40 minutes per hour of wrestling. I think is fine. We used to factoring in ads. We used to make fun of WCW because there was once an episode of Nitro that had no wrestling in its first hour.
Jesus,
and this was, this had 20 minutes before a match started. We used to make fun of Raw for that when Triple H was on top and he used to come out it's my weekly 20-minute promo. And it's all right, okay, fine.
Well, we had that on the Raw after Mania, didn't we?
Yes. It was all right, okay, fine, Trips. What do you got to say this week? Name the game. And it's 20 minutes later, and then Shelton Benjamin comes out for a 3-minute match. And here we had 20 minutes of chat before we got into wrestling, and then it was a short match, and then there was another 20-odd minutes of talking and stuff. Same problem I had with Dynamite last week. There was a period of time when there was half an hour with no wrestling, and there was just 4 different talking segments back to back.
I mean, what's interesting is when we get to doing the actual show, you aren't wrong about that, and yet I enjoyed the bits in between. The actual material was, I thought, quite entertaining and really well plotted.
I thought a lot of this was pretty good.
So I didn't really mind it when it took us that long to get to the wrestling. It is different, though, you are right, when there is a 20-minute long promo that ultimately goes nowhere and does nothing. That's when it starts to feel like, oh, step it up. I think that's probably why I didn't notice.
But this week, I think this main event, it very much saved the show for me.
It was amazing.
From what I thought was a perfectly fine episode of Raw, because this wasn't, again, not a bad episode of Raw. There's no bad episodes of Raw in the Triple H era. But it was a totally fine Raw into that's a pretty good episode of Raw. That was a very good 3 out of 5 episode. Because this was a match between Tomasso Ciampa and Gunther. On Raw, they'd set up that this was supposed to be at Fastlane. They had a contract signing for their match at Fastlane. And in that, Ciampa convinced Gunther that they should do it on Raw tonight. He was all fired up about it. This has been his dream since he was a small boy. He wants to be a good role model for his kids, and he wants to win singles gold on the main roster. And Gunther, because Gunther's awesome, was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, which is great because you then had the opposite of that in, say, like the Miz segment later, which is where I was like, no, I'm the cowardly heel, and you want this match now? No. Or, you know, we had over 4 weeks of Nakamura and stuff. But Gunther's like, oh, I like fighting, so yeah. Well, we can do it tonight if you want.
It's back. It's talking the talk and walking the walk. It's being able to have your gift to your gab and then being like, well, no, I'll fight you.
So these two then just went out and battered each other.
Yeah.
But I thought that the crowd weren't into this. I mean, I thought that it was not a great crowd all night. And the crowd early in this match, particularly in the middle of this match, were bored and were actually playing on their phones, and they just started doing the Firefly thing and not paying attention. But the action was so good that by the end of it, they were into the near falls and stuff. Now you can actually literally watch like people putting their phones away and getting into the action. So like there's like loads of fireflies, and then they just start to diminish. So it's just like one guy left, and everyone else is actually into the action that's happening in ring.
I didn't notice that. I think probably because I was focusing in on the action and also taking notes during it and all of that stuff. So I didn't really notice all the crowd stuff. But this is the argument with television wrestling anyway, which is that as you say, you do get that kind of like in-betweeny.
It's the ad break stuff.
Exactly. But it was why whenever we watch stuff on Fight TV, I always skip through because I know nothing of consequence is going to be happening.
Oh, absolutely.
While we go to commercial and picture-in-picture.
I've said to you before when we do our Collision reviews, and on Collision and Dynamite, I know when they come back from the picture-in-picture. Yeah, there are certain camera shots that they use, and I was like, that's a picture-in-picture.
There you go. Well, in fact, the only other time this has happened is on Raw. There was that women's tag gauntlet, do you remember? And someone got eliminated during picture-in-picture.
Yeah.
And I came back and was like, we don't get picture-in-picture on BT Sports. So I was like, where they gone? What? But yeah, that it does kind of disrupt the flow of the match, but it is a credit to both of the men that they kind of managed to get the crowd back on side. And in fact, I thought, especially the sort of closing 10 minutes or so, I suppose, was quite gripping. Like really well plotted, well thought out. Gunther's hand being the thing in particular that, you know, it's what he uses. It's his ham fist. He uses it to chop you to death. Well, he's broken the table and it's really hurt him. And so Ciampa is using that to his momentum. He's battering it. He's beating the hand up, la, la, la. Because ultimately, when he hits on that Sicilian, what's it called?
The Sicilian stretch.
Yeah, that one. That the hand can be sort of yanked back with it in a way. So it's a submission to focus on here, but the arm is back. So you could always just add a little extra. That's a nice bit of psychology that I really enjoy. And then, yeah, it was just great to the point where, when we get to the close, I don't want to be getting ahead of ourselves here or anything like that, but when we get to the finish of the match, the crowd are applauding a sleeper.
Yeah, well, I think Gunther has done a great job in getting lots of different finishes over, and that's like we were talking about this with Zack Sabre Jr. on the Dynamite, the Wrestle Dream review yesterday. It's like, what's Zack's finish? Everything. And that's the same with Gunther, and it's one of my favorite things about Gunther is that everything's a finisher. He can finish you with a powerbomb, he can finish you with a sleep, he can finish you with a lariat. Like, he can put you away in multiple different scenarios, and he has got the sleeper over as one of those finishes. Do you remember when like Dolph Ziggler got it over?
Yeah,
there was a period in time where Dolph Ziggler just got the sleeper over as a match ender. It used to just be like a rest hold spot. But Dolph Ziggler, I'm going to make this a finish.
That's what I mean. If you'd have told me that this match was going to finish and the finishing move would be a sleeper hold, I sort of wouldn't have listened to you. The more I thought about it, the more during the match it was happening and he was focusing on the neck. There was an incredible... It was the fairy tale ending. Ciampa's going for the fairy tale ending. Gunther counters it with a chop, a sleeper, and then pulls that sleeper into a suplex where Ciampa lands on his head that looks absolutely vicious but was taken brilliantly. It looked vicious in the moment, but then you see the reverse... the replay, and you see that Ciampa manages to take it brilliantly in a way that makes it look vicious, but is actually very safe. And I remembered, Ciampa's got an issue with his neck. He's got a history of neck issues that they really didn't sell on commentary at all. They didn't mention it one bit.
I did like Cole on commentary, particularly because Cole was very getting fired up for the ending.
They did really well on the commentary. It's just interesting to me that they didn't go there with it. But that does make sense. And then finally, he's been working on the neck the whole time. Double power bombs him. Could just happily go for the cover, fold him up. All the air's gone out of his lungs. No, I'm going to be vicious with it, and I'm going to do the sleeper. And it's when he's lifting him up, he's holding a sleeper, and the audience are applauding a sleeper hold. That's Gunther.
I particularly enjoyed it as well. Once the match is finished, Gunther just goes.
He just leaves.
I've done my thing here because Vinci and the other fella get in. Kaiser get in and start laying the boots to Ciampa. Gunther's like, well, I've done my thing.
Yeah, he batters him, and then he's like,
well, that's another win for me. Off I pop. And just as Ciampa was getting beaten down, not this Rebel Heart hit, and Johnny Gargano came down, and you could tell this was like a mild crowd.
Crowd it wasn't a big response.
No. But in fairness to this crowd, this isn't something they've been building, really.
No.
They had some social media stuff where Ciampa was putting up missing posters for Gargano, and those that never made it onto TV. And Ciampa has said in a couple of promos, maybe I need to do it yourself or whatever it is. And we haven't had like The Way together on TV since the draft happened. They had like 2 segments on TV and then that's it. So yeah, like this crowd, and it's the same thing with Tegan Nox. It's like, well, the crowd will sign up for Tegan Nox match. I was like, well, what? Are you surprised? She's not on TV and they're just having 2-minute matches. Johnny Gargano hasn't been on TV for months on end, and they haven't hyped up this, the reunion of DIY outside of a handful of lines for us fans that have been across the history of Ciampa and Gargano. We're the ones who are excited about this, but to sort of like the general WWE audience who might not have seen their journey together, they've had no reason to be excited about this. So when Johnny Gargano comes out, it's like, okay, that lad's here.
Well, also, he has had a run on the main roster, but it kind of was a bit whatever. Like, it's not like a major returning star. It is to those of you who are fans of his work and have seen the best of the best.
I'm excited to see DIY together on the main roster.
But for the rest of us, it's a mid-carder that for your general audience, and B, it's a mid-carder with a theme that doesn't sound as memorable as it once did because they've lowered the octave to stick it to CFO $sign or whatever they're called.
That's what someone just said in the chat. They're like, that new theme don't help.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all because it sounds very generic. That said, there was also another moment earlier on in the show that I thought really pointed to, that we do live in a bit of a bubble, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which was, at one point, Drew McIntyre mentioned he thought he was stuck in the Codyverse. And I think he thought he was going to get a little or a little pop or something like that. Nothing.
I don't know if he thought that was going to get a pop.
He left a moment for it. The way it was delivered made it feel like he was expecting a reaction, and there was, whether it was a pop or an or something, there was just no reaction.
Well, he left that moment there so Stephen Larson can be like, "Oh my God, Drew watches our show."
Right? Okay. But the reality is, we've been waiting for the DIY reunion. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. Let's just stop talking about it because it's clearly not happening. But then here it was, and I think ultimately it just requires them to have some bangers together, and then also their finish didn't get put on. Got cut off.
They went to do the meet in the middle kick, and the feed ended.
So the broadcast just completely ended, and I came up with a joke immediately, which was that Adam Copeland may be all elite, but WWE still own the rights to Edge. Thank you very much. Edging, you familiar with edging? I'll tell you after the show.
Oh, yeah, probably best team. Even with that, I still don't think the joke works.
Oh, it really works. Trust me. I tweeted it, then changed my mind and redrafted it and tweeted it again. But point being, I can't wait to see DIY against Imperium. And then I started thinking in my head things like, okay, so Survivor Series, you've got DIY and Alpha Academy versus Imperium and who? And then in that match, you could have Gunther and Chad be the final 2, and Gunther just about gets the win, or maybe even Chad manages to get the win, and that sets you up for a happy Christmas title change. Like, my mind is whirring with all the little things that can go on. I was really excited to see it. I popped for Johnny Gargano. It was like, finally, it's happening. Let's do it.
I've had a real, like, finally moment. Like, a genuinely a real, like, oh, finally, we're here. And it's not a case of, like, finally, we've got it. It's more a case of, oh, okay, finally, they've done it. Because they've just not done it. And it's not like we've been building to this moment where he makes the save. And that's kind of like where I feel like there's the disappointment in this return. Is there's like, oh, this is just the week you just do it. Like, there was no, like, pyro hype or ballyhoo about, like, this moment happening. It was like, no, it just happened. And we didn't foreshadow it. We didn't tease it. We didn't, like, when Nia Jax came back and they spent the whole episode giving you, like, little hints and teasers to be like, this is going to happen later in the show. He just returned, they missed the finish, and then the show ended.
I mean, I thought also the main event happening, the match happening here at all, but then also the amount of time it got given, my perception of it, at least, was because of, they were supposed to have a women's title match that was going to probably have a bit of time on it. You'd hope. And there was a couple of other things that got a couple of other things that got sort of shifted around a little bit. It made me feel like this was a sort of decision on the fly. So maybe that plays into it as well. I don't know.
I think that's reactionary, but you didn't need this. Like, you could have just ended with a 20-minute banger.
Yeah, I liked it nonetheless.
Oh, I liked it,
especially, and I especially like the execution of it. I mean, the crowd reaction and the build to the return and the whatever is sort of its own separate thing. The match followed by the beatdown, followed by Gunther just wrapping the belt around his waist, gasping for air, but thrilled. I'm Gunther, and leaving. To Gargano making the save. There was that great shot of him looking over his shoulder, and then Ciampa's there like smiling as well. And then I assume the kick looked great. I didn't see it on television. I had to find it on YouTube afterwards. That as a segment, great. So
that's it. Well, you know what? It's all about the moment.
It's all about the moment.
Like WWE, they give us moments. It doesn't matter about the build. It doesn't matter about the moments that came, or the stories that come afterwards.
Yeah.
You got that moment.
The moment.
His return in November was a moment.
Right.
And that really is all there has been since he came back in November. And nearly 1 year on, we've been given another moment.
Another moment. Love a moment.
Well, let's see what you thought of this. Do you know what I thought was also startling about this episode of Monday Night Raw? Is that when the show is finished, I'll go onto the old Twitter machine to kind of sort of see what the vibe is. Ain't no one tweeting about this show. Like, I sort of went, I was like, there was nothing going on. And I was really surprised about that, particularly with the Gargano return. I thought there would be a bit of buzz and a bit of excitement. And I wonder if that's also sort of fed into my, like, oh yeah, this was like just a totally fine episode of Raw with a sort of okay return.
Yeah, well, Taylor Swift's going to the football now, so a lot of people are very distracted. That's kind of the zeitgeisty. Denise especially.
Well, I saw. Well, no, I mean, Denise has been distracted by other things. I don't know if you heard the Fightful post show.
What?
Well, she saw she was over in Greece for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and she saw a statue of a nude man, and had to go back to her hotel and have a wank. Like that, more or less her words, not mine.
Goodness gracious!
So, like, I think she's had other things on her mind.
Well, there you go. I mean, why wouldn't you? Some of the statues are lovely.
Well, that was her argument. It was a very, very nice statue.
It's appreciating art.
But I was really surprised that there was a lack of like.
There was. I agree.
Big sort of excitement bubble around this. But I thought Wade had a quite good line about the whole Taylor Swift thing. I don't know. My wife asked me about this the other day. She was like, "Are you aware of this Taylor Swift thing?" And I was like, "Not particularly."
That's why I'm here.
But she sort of explained what was going on, and I was like, well, I do like that Anti-Hero song. Yeah. I actually texted Denise that while she was on holiday. I was like, I think Anti-Hero is a very good song.
It's a good pop song. It's got a very strange lyric in the middle of it. But
what's the strange one?
Sometimes I feel like everyone is a sexy baby. What are you talking about, Tay? But all right, I guess.
Yeah. If that's what floats your boat.
And she's a monster on the hill. She's saying sometimes I think everyone's really fit and I'm uggo. I'm ugly buggly.
Yeah,
but it's just the line
that's you, Taylor Swift. That's what everyone says about you.
Famously Ming and Taylor Swift. But it's just the line that she's saying, "Oh, everybody is a sexy baby," and I'm like, what? I'm just bopping along like, and then suddenly she says it, and I go. Every single time. But, but yeah, she's at the football.
I thought Wade had a very good line because they showed a football lad in the crowd. I think he takes the rainbow. And they showed him in the crowd. And Wade Barrett's like, he don't need to wear a Taylor Swift t-shirt to be recognised in football.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into your UltraChats about this. Matt Hennessy kicks off, said, we've had the DIY for the last 2 months on social media and we finally got it on TV. Have we had it for 2 months on social media? I feel like we had it for a week.
Time is a relentless mistress. I don't even know anymore.
No, what I mean is I feel like we had it for a week 2 months ago.
Right, yeah.
As opposed to we've had it for 2 months.
Well, maybe we're social media. We just kept it going.
Okay. DIY versus Owens and Zayn, please and thank you. Great to have them back together. This partnership will help get both guys over with the main roster audience. I'm so excited. I hope for that too.
Yes.
Because I saw someone in the chat say that, well, I'm unsurprised that the crowd didn't react. Johnny Gargano isn't over. And that's not untrue.
Yeah.
It's actually a very true statement. Do you think that a tag run, considering that the tag division is more or less non-existent, can get them over?
Anyone can go from not really over to massively over. Anyone. Mm-hmm. If they have the skill to back it up. And I think that Johnny Gargano and Tomasso Ciampa have the skill to back it up. I think working with Imperium is a great way of doing it to kick them off on a good run. I look at Chad Gable going from Alpha Academy nonsense segments to everyone's within the top 4 of best wrestler of the year, all down to skill and good booking and good agenting, good producing, all of the rest, good wrestling. So yeah, I absolutely think it could. It just depends how long these tag titles are going to be mired in the Judgment Day. Yeah, Judgment Day, Codyverse, Bloodline extravaganza, Owens and Zayn. If they are removed from that, I think it could be a hell of a run.
I don't think they need the tag belts. I think this team...
I just mean for a division.
For a division, absolutely, yes. As a wider issue, yes, you're right. I think as a team on their own, they just need one 20-minute match.
Yeah.
I think you give them a 20-minute match against Imperium on Raw next week or in the next couple of weeks, 100% I think this crowd will get behind them, particularly if it's in front of a good crowd. Like, I don't know when they're next going to Cleveland, but like that'll be where I would do it.
Yeah.
Kid Cuddy here said, I haven't seen Raw yet because of work, but saw the Johnny Gargano return in a promo role, so 5 out of 5. Ever since the merger, we've been seeing more and more people on TV that were once, hope they don't get released, people, and I'm here for it. Maybe Painesville Dan says, hello, Luke. Hello, other Dan. Hopefully you're having a good time. Seems like Mark Markson had a day off this week. Anyway, you ready for Imperium versus DIY and Dexter Loomis? Gunther versus Loomis is a main event match, if you ask me.
Mark Markson is very expensive, so...
Sometimes when Dan... I love it when Dan, because he's a long-time viewer, long-time UltraChatter. There are often times when he sends in messages that read like they're the social media feedback you get on my GM mode.
A little bit, yeah.
Because I don't think anyone else is singing that Gunther versus Loomis is a main event match.
Well, I mean, you know.
Do you know who looks like they should have a belt around their waist?
Dexter Loomis.
And it's like, oh... all right, I'll make a note of that.
Dexter Loomis isn't half good at singles matches.
Let's get into the show itself. So there were 4 things advertised for this episode. It was Nia versus Baszler, Becky versus Tegan, Jey Uso versus Damian Priest, and Drew McIntyre on Miz TV. None of those things happened, though one of them may as well have done.
Right.
Becky obviously got hurt during the NXT No Mercy match.
Yep.
Excellent NXT No Mercy match.
I haven't seen the full show yet,
dude.
So I was in Cardiff over the weekend for the half marathon. Not that I was running it. Are you joking? But I've been very busy, so I haven't seen either No Mercy or Wrestle Dream. I really could have done with one of them being rubbish, so I could have skipped it. But I've got to find time somewhere.
I would say if I was to give you like a 4-match rec, I would say Becky and Tiff, Dragunov and Hayes, Zach and Brian, and Hanger and Swerve.
Okay, those are the 4 that I'd probably pick.
Those are the 4 I'd go. If you want to go into a 5th, I'd add in Darby and Christian.
I've seen it return. I don't.
But the match itself is also real good. Right. So that if I were to give you,
I don't like watching Darby Allin wrestle. I can say this on the WWE show, not because he's not very good. He's a very good wrestler. I just don't like seeing someone willfully injure themselves. That often.
There is a bump that is gross.
I've seen the bump. So I feel like I don't need to watch the rest of the match.
And remarkably, I don't think it's the worst bump in the whole match.
Right.
No, I think the unpretty that he takes on the boards is way worse. He thought, what's the best way for me to take this? I think all in my face. Anyway, none of those things happened. Becky got injured during the NXT match, and they said on this show that Damian Priest wasn't medically cleared either. They also said Finn Balor wasn't medically cleared. I don't know what the status of that one is. But Sean Ross Sapp on the Fightful post show sort of alluded to the fact that, like, I think he's fine because he's wrestling this weekend and he's advertised for SmackDown. It may just be a case of they pivoted and they changed their mind to do the tag match at Fastlane. So in which case they were like, well, let's just not do that singles match then. Like, this was a last minute change. And it may or may not actually have anything to do with Damian Priest being medically cleared. But Nia and Baszler was always planned to not happen. Like in the Raw rundown, the Fightful slate posted, this was just scheduled as fight. And that's how the broadcast opened. There was no opening or anything. It was just Baszler and Nia just fighting their way down to the ring. Raquel Rodriguez made her turn into this segment, who Michael Cole said has been out with whiplash.
Whiplash. That's what Xavier Woods had to have his week off for his birthday, so everyone's getting whiplash at the moment.
Look, I was in a 6-car pileup earlier this year and got...
A six-car... Sorry, there's an in-joke. Don't worry, carry on.
I was in a 6-car pileup this year, and I got whiplash from it, and I didn't miss a day of work. So what's your excuse, Raquel? Come on, mate. I was making content.
And your back is nowhere near as strong as Raquel Rodriguez.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if she'd have been in the 6-car pileup that I was in, she'd probably just walked it off. Probably just, jumped out the car and stuff. Whereas me, it was like, ow. But I still made it to work. And then Rhea Ripley
Luke Owens versus Raquel Rodriguez confirmed.
Owens?
Did I put an S on the end of
it? You did, yeah.
Well, S for all,
YouTube comments. Anyway, Rhea Ripley came down, everyone brawled, she beat up some security guards, and then that was that. And then Rhea's like, also, I'm staying in the ring now. I've got to do another segment.
I loved this segment.
Me too.
I really did. I thought it was a great way to kick off the show. I was knackered when I woke up this morning, and I was sort of just pressing play and like, okay, here we go. And then suddenly there's a fight. And I think it was way more effective for it to be this than it would have been to be Baszler versus Jax, to be completely honest. I thought it made it feel frenetic. It made it feel hectic. There was a shabbiness to it that I really appreciated. There was an amazing moment where Ripley wasn't facing the hard cam with the guy she'd picked up for a pump handle. So she just turned around while holding him and battered him as well. The way she looked incredible. This little time off has been brilliant. Her arms look brilliant. The way it cut back to Cole and Barrett to sort of try and kick off the show, and then Rhea's there still just like cutting over them, and they're like, "Oh, I guess it felt hectic. Mm-hmm. It felt unpolished, and I liked that. I don't like things being too slick. I
enjoyed this. I also really like that this set up a fatal 4-way rather than a triple threat, which is where we sort of thought it was going when Nia came back. We sort of posited like, oh, they'll do a triple threat. Maybe that'll be at Fastlane. Looks like we're not doing any of these matches at Fastlane. They'll just save that for Raw. Kind of like what they did with, Ciampa and Gunther. Yeah. And even like Gunther and Gable and stuff. You don't put that on pay-per-view, you put it on Raw as a main event. I like that way of doing things, even if TV does ruin it with the ad breaks. But actually doing it as a fatal 4-way is a twist I didn't see coming, and I quite like.
Yeah.
Adding Baszler into this, I think it does her way more favors than her just teaming with Zoe Stark for tag titles that no one cares about. More on that later.
It's a very effective little combination as well.
Yeah. So Rhea did stay in the ring, though she had to stay there for a while because she's in the ring. Cut to the commentators so they could run down the card. Then we got Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio making their entrance. And then we got an ad break. Then we came back from the ad break so Rhea could do her promo.
I would have liked for Rhea to talk over the rundown of the show. I think it would have been really fun for her to still be on a live mic in the middle of the ring, being like, oh, this is coming up. This is not as important as me. Something like that to really like sell it to you and keep you there with your hands rubbing. Because we have got an ad break to do. So
So I like this promo from Rhea as well, which was, it's Groundhog Day. Again, there's problems within the Judgment Day, but she laid the blame on it. And she's like, Damien, it's your fault. Like, it is your fault that there are problems within this group. And I think it's your fault that Dominic lost his title at No Mercy. Where were you? And I had some really good points in all of this. And there's no leaders in the Judgment Day, but she made herself feel like she was the leader of this because she goes to Dom. She's like, look, I'm your mammy, which means you're my pappy. I've got you a title rematch for the North American Championship. You're welcome. But if you don't win that belt, don't bother coming home.
Yeah.
So not only has Dominic got to win back the belt, if he doesn't win back the belt, his marriage is breaking up.
Yeah.
I don't think the stakes have ever been higher for a match in WWE.
Certainly not. I think they could have sped through the bit with Priest because for me, the real magic was in this bit with Dom. I think they both performed it so well. Rhea looked both furious, but also kind of hurt. Like there was a little betrayal in her face that I was like, oh, that. And then as someone who is like, I watch a weekly television show about a fictional romance between two people who I don't know. I was like, oh, I was feeling the pain a little bit. And then he cut to Dom and he had this excellent like puppy dog face replete with a shiner from his match. I thought it was a really nice little segment. And I don't see Dom winning the belt back. And I don't let the memories end.
So Jey Uso came out to flirt with Rhea Ripley,
which I loved.
Yeah, and then they all got into a brawl, and Cody Rhodes ran down to even up the odds, and Adam Pearce announced that it's going to be Cody and Jey versus the Judgment Day for the tag titles at Fastlane.
Yeah.
we got this later in the promo with Cody, but it really feels like both Jay and Cody have zero interest in winning these belts.
Yeah, like JD McDonough interfered, and I thought that was yet again, and there's another segment later where it's like JD McDonough being like, I'm actually the one who knows what I'm doing here, which I thought was a nice little continuation of that storyline, but I would like some forward momentum on that storyline. But then, yeah, both Jay and Cody both seem completely surprised that they will be challenging, and they're like, oh, okay.
Oh, I guess
sure.
We are. Yeah,
why not?
All right.
Which is an odd way to build it. It's a go-home episode of a show. So
there's another instance of this later on in the broadcast that we'll get to. But like Jay came out and they said, "Oh, I'm going to be going for the tag belts," or like someone said, "You're going to be going for the tag belts at Fastlane." And then Adam Pearce comes out and is like, "I feel like we've now got a match in our hands and I've made it official." I'm like, "But I thought we'd already made it. You'd already announced that the match was happening on TV." By the way, they're a brawl. We got a recap of Jade Cargill signing with WWE with that very WWE line of she looks like a superhero. She is main roster.
I mean,
bound.
she does. She literally looks like Storm.
Yeah, well, that was the whole thing. Yeah. Storm is coming.
I saw a clip of her, I think not long after or just while being TBS champion, where she was behind the table at a press conference basically saying like, I want to push into like fashion and like Fenty Beauty and all of this. She reeled off all of the stuff that I think she wanted to take the TBS title to as well. So I'm really interested in them treating her like this crossover star. And like, I know there were reports, and it was the press conference where Tony pulled a Tony and was like, you know, what I offered her loads and loads of money.
I feel like people have been real hard on Tony in this.
Oh, I'm hard on Tony always because I think he can take it because he's a billionaire.
No, I know what I mean is because like Pete said this yesterday. He was like, I thought Tony was a real dick in the press conference. I was like, I don't see why everyone's being so hard on Tony.
That's because he pays you.
Well, I mean, I have to say because he's over there.
Yeah, he's watching us right now.
But like Tony can't say. Like, someone said what happened. He was like, I made her an offer, which I thought was fair. And then she asked for more money, so I offered her more money. And then she asked for more money. And it was at that point I realized that she didn't want to stay, but she played a great game, and that's enough. She went, and I wish her well. And her door's always open if she wants to come back.
So there's two things. There's the way they handled the exit, which I thought was actually brilliant. Like I loved the fact that she was given that big return, and they had a match on Rampage, and Statlander put her hand in the air. I thought it was really classy. And then. And I also really enjoyed the way Edge went out in the same way, this big celebration of Edge, and then off he goes as well. Isn't it nice when we can all get this Mean Girls Day? We all bake a cake with rainbows and smiles. But the other side of it is that when I read what he said, and it's not the most villainous thing in the world, it's just a little bit where it's like, it just made it be like, oh, I offered her loads of money. She clearly, it made it feel like she clearly only wanted money. And my pushback on that is, first of all, it felt like airing dirty laundry. Second of all, he then gives himself a big pat on the back by talking about how good her send-off was, rather than just letting it be. And the thing is, I then watched this moment from her press conference where she talked about wanting that kind of mainstream or like crossover, or like to really push the boundaries and do things in fashion and do things in elsewhere. WWE are far more interested in that than AEW are. Like, it's just Tony Khan loves his wrestling show to be about wrestling, and he'll do crossovers if they make sense for him. He'll put Shark Week on the apron. He'll do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre match.
That's more of an advertising thing than it is like a crossover thing.
That's what I'm saying. He's more than happy to like take the advertising money. And I guess there was a moment where, I mean, Cody, it's funny that Cody is the other example of this that I can think of, where he was on, what was it, the Go Big show or something in America?
No, yes.
He was a judge on something on TNT.
They also did Rose to the Top. Right. And then they did a follow-up reality show that was clearly supposed to be Rose to the Top Season 2, but Cody had gone.
And it was that, the behind the, where Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker and...
Yeah, it was this weird show. It was a weird show that no one watched.
Yeah. It's not what they're interested in. They care very much about
Warner Brothers are interested in them
big
doing,
time.
but they're not
Tony
interested
isn't.
in.
And Tony ultimately is the one who makes the decision. So if I don't think it's Jade did what a smart person should do,
Absolutely.
which is know your worth, get your best offer. She got her best offer, and WWE are also desperate for that mainstream approval. So they'll give her all the other things that she wants as well. I think that's a really smart, and this continued push of her as superstar in the making is more evidence to that.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in it.
I think we're all very much in agreement with that. Like we talked about this on the prediction show out tomorrow, but like she played the smartest move possible. She did what every wrestler should do, which is my contract is coming to an end. I'm going to play both sides off against each other. Randy Orton did the exact same thing in 2019 and got a massive paycheck out of it. Smart boy. Always knew that he was going to...
I'm sure Edge did as well when he signed with WWE.
Sure, I'm sure that... I don't know, when he joined with AEW, I'm sure he played both sides off against each other to get the best contract that he possibly could. That's what a wrestler should be doing. And the reason why I'm sort of like, I'm not coming to Tony's defense on this because he doesn't need my help or defense on this. And also, Tony, I don't think is a particularly great businessman or a particularly great booker in a lot of scenarios. But Pete was like, and I think it's if you just read the quote out, you can put your own emphasis on it. But if you watch the quote, he's just being like, yeah, I offered some money. And she said, no. It's not like he wasn't even like, I offered her loads of money and that bitch turned her back on us.
No, of course he's not.
But that's how you read the quote.
No, I read the quote like he was just airing it, but I didn't read it. I certainly didn't read it in that way. I want to be very clear. I'm not accusing him of anything like that.
A lot of people are.
Well, a lot of people say a lot of shit. Sorry. Sorry, Jenna. But I'm saying it basically read like he was just saying, well, I mean, I offered her all the money and she wanted more money. So,
but again, that's not how he said it.
Right, well, there you go. But like, it's still he said that he, like, ultimately what he said, it comes down to money.
And we have a pop at people for avoiding questions.
Yeah, well,
someone asked him the question and he gave an answer. Yeah. So either we want people to give them the answers at media things, or we don't want them. Or we want to avoid them and not air dirty laundry.
I don't want. I think there's again. Why? This is why I always get called a centrist. I'm always looking for the middle ground.
How is your bottom on the side of that phone? You're in the middle of the fence.
Oh, I love it up here. The view is amazing.
Anyway, I thought this was. I think they're doing a great job of pushing Cargill, and they got a lot of articles out about her at the moment, talking about how they've essentially poached her from the competition, and she is the future of this business. She is going to do so many media appearances, and I think it is the absolutely best use you could use out of her outside of her in-ring work, which she will excel in with the Performance Center.
Right.
She is going to be a major, massive star. And also it's going to offer her the opportunity to be able to do all of the projects that she wants to do. This is a fantastic move for her. It's a great move for WWE. It's a great signing for WWE. And I'm glad that they're treating it like this.
The only bit where I hold my breath a little bit is that it is a lot of pressure to deliver. That first match is going to have every single eyeball on it. And I hope that they do. I feel like she's putting in the work. I hope that they're going to do the same and it doesn't turn into a Gable Stevenson situation. That's a little fear I have.
Yeah, I think this won't be Gable Stevenson because he did not have it.
And she's got it.
But she has got it.
Yeah.
Like, she has certainly got something. You haven't been doing this for 2 years.
Right.
And all of those 2 years have been on national TV. Now she's got the opportunity to be able to just, like, do a lot of... You can put her on house shows and stuff and do sort of like, stuff that's not on TV. And she can get a lot of exposure and a lot of work that way. I think she's going to excel.
Yeah, I hope so.
Over 20 minutes into the show, we got our first match, which was Alpha Academy versus Imperium.
So I have so few notes on it.
The story of this is that Kaiser has been given Vinci to look after, essentially. And I thought then they played that quite nicely into the finish, which is that Vinci was the difference maker. Kaiser had the match essentially lost for his team with Otis running wild, and he was about to give him an avalanche fall-away slam. But Vinci gets up, he trips Otis's feet, and that lets Kaiser hit the running enziguri for the win. I thought it was a very smart finish to play into the story that you set up the previous week.
It was real, and I also just really enjoyed it, especially Otis's hot tag moment. I thought it was really fun. His little tongue waggle, it was really entertaining.
Yeah. We've got a recap of Becky and Tiffany's match at No Mercy. I'm just going to put this over again. Hell of a match. But also, check out that crowd. That was a crowd that was like, man, it feels a bit like TakeOver.
I thought about this. So when I have watched the opening of the show, watched the opening match and halfway through Dom and Trick. And the opening No Mercy bit, by the way, that whoever made that opening title sequence,
the graphics and everything, yeah.
Oh my god, I lived out loud.
Yeah.
And a part of it was seeing like there was Finn and Asuka and Bayley and Sami Zayn in their NXT gear, which kind of made me go like, oh, that was a really special time in this industry and whatever. And NXT hasn't felt like that for a while. And it's starting to feel that way again for me. And
There's
Becky said in that promo, she was like, "This feels like the NXT that I came up in." And then later on, when we see Trick on the show on Raw, I was like, "Oh,
lot of momentum behind NXT.
Yeah,
like the likes of which we haven't seen probably since like the glory days of NXT.
Yeah,
like this has got more momentum than it had during the Wednesday Night War.
Big time.
I think there's a lot of momentum behind NXT at the moment. It's doing some great stuff. And they showed a photo of the injury that Becky got, which was gross.
Yucky.
Which means that they were postponing Tegan Nox's match. So here was the other weird bit that I thought. Because they said, well, Tegan, you can't have your match now. We're going to do that at another point. You know, you're going to do you versus Becky for the NXT Women's Championship.
Like next week.
Basically, when Becky is fine.
Yeah.
In the same breath, announced that Becky Lynch is going to be on NXT tonight to find her next challenger.
Yeah,
we've just set up as Tegan Nox.
It is that thing that you've put in at an awful lot, and it is accurate. Of well, you're giving us the result. Like, it's one thing for the champ to say, "I'm going to show up every single week." It's another thing to say, "You have a title shot, but Becky is on the lookout for other challenges," which means you're probably not going to win it. Kind of thing. It's an odd thing.
Or it's Becky is going to lose the belt and Tegan's just going to face Becky, but for not the belt.
Right. Odd.
Yeah.
Very odd.
Bronson Reed then squashed Cedric Alexander.
Because this is my... Sorry, I had another...
We had the Chelsea Green bits.
Well, but first, two things. First of all, if I was booking the show and judging by their blatant use of my pitches lately, I probably am. I would lean into this for Tegan Nox to give Tegan Nox a bit of a character, because at the moment she's just, hello, I'm Tegan Nox. I learned a Welsh word over the weekend. Llongifaciadau. Means congratulations. I don't. Llongifaciadau.
I could tell because you were doing a lot of Welsh Instagramming over the weekend.
I'm trying to lean in.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to become Prime Minister and I'll be able to speak Welsh. I'll bring everyone back together.
So I tried to learn Welsh for my wedding.
It's a lot.
Oh, it's a lot.
There's a lot, and there are so many different Welshes.
Yeah. And then my wife's aunt asked me, like, well, why don't you come to us for help on this? I was like, because there's only 3 of you that can speak Welsh, which means I'd only been doing it to you 3. So you'll have already heard what I had to say.
I think if you speak Welsh and then you play it backwards, it's just English. It's a lot of things just reversed. I don't have any evidence of that, but I'm going to figure... My favourite one...
I think if anyone rotated word down, they would find that's not true.
My favourite thing with Welsh is, especially a lot of the newer words where there isn't like an ancient word for it, so they sort of Welshify. I think they call it... I don't know this. I'm not one. I think they call it Wenglish. So in case that's offensive to the people of Wales, I really respect you and Cymru and all the rest. Cymru and Byth. But there's a word... They print both Welsh and English together on everything. So that...
Araf.
Yeah. So my favourite of that is the word for bus, which is just bus with a W. And on the bus lane, they've got bus with a W. And then underneath it, bus with a U. I feel like that's unnecessary. I'm just going to say it. Anyway, point being...
There's a message here being like, you butchered that, Dan. I love you, but stay out of Wales.
I'm working on it! I promise I'm trying. It's a hard language.
No, Dan, you've been told you're not allowed back
I'm not allowed back into Wales.
Well, yeah, you've been told to stay out of Wales.
It's going to be a little bit difficult for me. I'll be honest with you. But yes.
Anyway, you're talking about Tegan Nox.
I'm talking about Tegan Nox, who is Welsh. That's why we were there. Anyway, good.
Which you always forget until she opens up her mouth and she's like, hello. It's like, oh my God, yeah, you are Welsh.
I'd like to take on Becky Lynch at some point. But that's kind of the whole character, right? Let her be a little bit like, Natty stepped over me and I was stupid to let her ever go. Now this has happened and I get it, Becky's injured, but I'm getting a bit... She's going to NXT? She's looking for other people? Lean it, give her a bit of bite, give her a little bit of something.
No, because her and Natty are friends now.
No, we'll get to that. But like, remember how Becky's broken nose pushed her into the next level and it was like making mountains out of molehills and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like, do it. Lean into it. Use that
She's
stuff.
just a happy-go-lucky girl from the valleys.
From the valleys. Also, Adam Pearce... So he said it at the opening, and he said it again here when he was talking, because Chelsea Green comes in and says, "You're not championship material, but I am." And Piper's nowhere to be seen.
She was on the show.
In this segment, she wasn't.
Oh no.
And then Adam Pearce is like, "Well, how about you two have a match?" That is official.
Yeah, he's trying to get over his new catchphrase.
He's desperately trying to make fetch happen. I see you.
Adam Pearce looked at www.shop.com and I was
like, where's the Adam Pearce
Adam Pearce t-shirt, is there?
Look, if it becomes a t-shirt, I will buy one.
No, you won't. Bronson Reed squashed Cedric Alexander. Poor old Cedric got the jobber treatment with no entrance.
Yep.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Drew then told Adam Pearce that he doesn't want to do miss. He basically said, I did miss TV last week. I'm not doing it again. Honestly, why did you book this? And Adam Pearce was like, Jack, you know what? Yeah,
honestly fair.
Fair. And that's official. You don't have to anymore. You can just go out there and just do your own promo instead.
Yeah.
Then we got the Tomasso Ciampa and Gunther contract signing. I like Ciampa's promo and all of this.
Big time.
Also, I like Gunther's promo.
Yeah, I love his shoes with no socks.
It was like, he had his loafers.
Yeah.
It was like, you see how I'm dressed? I'm a champion. Look, state of you. Absolute state of you.
Also, they're really, really setting up the future is now and the future of the future is now because they're all mentioning their kids at the moment. They're all setting up the Nepo Baby NXT of 2036.
The Judgment Day were hanging out backstage, and this is where JD trying to sort of step up, and Priest was going to throw him out again, but he came up with the genius plan on how the Judgment Day are going to unravel this group of good lads. They're going to make them not trust Jey Uso.
That's going to be tricky.
That's going to be a tricky old task. But they all went like,
we hadn't thought of that.
Do you know what?
He's nailed it.
He's absolutely nailed that. I hadn't thought
Actually, what happened was Damian Priest goes, I'm going to have to think about it. But that is a good idea. But let me just go and check my notes.
Let me just go, I mean,
we haven't tried that yet.
It could work, but we'll see. We then got Xavier Woods taking on Ivar of the Viking Raiders. This wasn't given as much time as the Kofi match did a couple of weeks ago, and ergo it was almost half as good as that, but it was still very, very good.
Yes, it was. I think Ivar lifts there was a bit in the corner where he lifts himself up just to do a sit-down splash, which I really loved.
Ivar's honestly, actually, Eric getting injured has done wonders for Ivar.
Because then he also had a moment where Woods gets him up for the Death Valley Driver, and that was a huge pop for me. I think there were just some quite good wrestlers in WWE.
I think there are people who are doing way better Welsh than you are.
That's because they're writing it down.
No. It's just like, so our mod mother here, her last name is of Welsh origin.
Welsh Llewellyn? Welsh?
Yeah. She's just better at it than you are.
It's easier to write Welsh than it is to say it.
And she's from Pittsburgh.
Dalati.
It's from Pittsburgh.
I
don't even know where that is.
Do you know what Leighton's not my real surname. Plot twist. Because my real surname was taken by another actor on Spotlight. My real name means bog dweller. When England were in the semi-finals of the World Cup, they put out this massive thing being like, the National Trust were like, here's the origins of everyone's surnames. And people were like, oh, Man of Truth. Or I don't know what yours is Irish, feels like.
I think it's Welsh.
Welsh?
Yeah, from Cohen, I think.
Hang on my face. But my real surname was like, oh, I wonder what the meaning of it is. Bog dweller. Well, thank you, National Trust. No wonder I changed it.
My mother's side is Irish.
Right. Okay.
Because they were a lot of Irish twins. My mum is the oldest of 5, and she has got 6 siblings.
Jesus, wow.
She was the oldest at 5,
right?
With 6, and then her mother passed away. Oh. But yeah, and she'd had 6 siblings by that point.
Yeah. I traced my family back 6 generations, all from the same place in Cheadle, the same bog, probably.
It's a lovely part of the world. Anyway, this featured one of my favorite finishes in the world of professional wrestling, which is that someone wins, so the other person beats them down and then walks away like, who's the real winner? And I'm like, that guy, because they won the match.
He did do a double moonsault on him. I mean, the cheek, the gall, the nerve, the audacity, and the gumption.
Yeah, so what he did is that he beat up both of them and he laid them on top of each other and hit his moonsault, which looked like it sucked to take.
Lovely.
But it was very funny, but I was thinking, like, who's the real winner? Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods is the real winner because he beat you. This is how great WWE's video package department is. With nothing but pre-existing footage, they made this feud between Seth and Nakamura look like it was awesome.
Can I make a confession? I skipped it. Because this is how bad WWE's booking has been. I didn't care. I'll watch it again at Fastlane. They'll just play the exact same thing.
Seth came out for a promo. It was at this point, I went to Cage Match. I was like, how much wrestling has there been on this show? And it was like 90 minutes into the show. I was like, there's only been 20 minutes of wrestling in 90 minutes. Anyway, this was, like I say, to put over Michael Cole.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Because they mentioned
and it worked.
Michael Cole's been here for 26 years and only had 2 days off.
The band's never had a holiday.
Yeah.
Like,
what's up with that?
I mean, I haven't had a week off.
I guess it's probably because he used to be a proper journalist, so he's probably done a lot of like traveling. Then he's just like, I'm actually, I travel with this job.
This is the thing. I did put myself in that shoe, and I was like, if I was the commentator on Raw and I got to go to a different place every week and then go home, I'd probably, I'll just have holidays elsewhere. That was lovely. That sounds great. I'd be there every week.
But yeah, so that was, quite nice. And then Seth did the whole like, I do this for my kid, and I do this because I love the sport of wrestling, and dee. And then he said, I know those are just words, but it's more than words. It's a feeling. And this feeling that you're feeling, it's a real feeling.
There was a man in the front row with a shirt that said, I don't care about your feelings. Which, by the way, if you bought a t-shirt that says that, you're probably a bit of a dickhead. Be nice.
Nakamura appeared on the video screen, which gave Michael Cole enough time to get back to the commentary desk so he could do a bit of commentary.
Yeah.
And then it was a distraction because he attacked Seth from behind, and then the video Nakamura started counting to 10. But Seth got back up, so Nakamura threw him down again, and the video counted to 10 again. But Seth got up, so Nakamura hit him, did a backdrop onto the chair and hit a Kinshasa, and then he counted to 10 very quickly, posed with the belt. This is lovely, simple, go-home angle. That's what this is. It gets over the stipulation of the match. It gets over that Nakamura has got the tools in order to win. But crucially, Nakamura had to count quickly, which means he hasn't given away a finish. He had to forcibly count to 10, and Seth was already starting to get up. And he posed with the belt. I thought this did a lot and achieved all of it. I'm still not interested in the match.
Well, yeah.
But on paper, this is a very effective go-home angle. Thumbs up.
Except we need to talk to production about how subtitles work, because half the time it was cutting away from the video to look at Seth while the new sentence was coming on screen, and I was like, "Oh, what does it say? I need time to read it before we." Oh, you've cut away again. Okay, grand. So like, if we can do the reactions between the sentences. Thank you very much, production.
Tegan and Becky had a chat about that match that they're going to have real soon, unless of course Becky finds a different challenger. And this is where Natalya walked up and said, do you know what? I think we should actually be friends.
It was quite odd.
Yep.
Natalya at this stage has had more face and heel turns than Big Show. She's going for another Guinness World Record.
And that actually played into our next match, our only women's match on the show, Chelsea Green versus Tegan Nox. This match went 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Tegan did not get over into this match, and Natty came out to stop Piper Niven from distracting, and Tegan won. And then they hugged afterward, so Tegan is already moving away from Becky Lynch to go after the women's tag titles.
I don't want to... well, I do want to. I want to ding it for being a short match, but all the other matches were short as well, except for the main event.
Okay, there was a comment left on last week's video.
Uh-oh.
And I think this tells you everything you need to know about YouTube comments.
Right.
And I love you all. I do want to stress that.
Please continue to comment.
It's great for the algorithm, and I do appreciate. And I actually, you know what, even in the live chat where people like bury me and stuff like that, like I don't, it's good. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, and I like people being able to share opinions. I like the fact that we've been able to give a lot of people just a chance to chat about wrestling and get their thoughts out there. I think that's a great thing, and the YouTube comments are part of that. But in last week's show, where I was like, this is a brilliant 5 out of 5 show, like this is one of the best Raws of the year, every comment was like, I can't believe Luke didn't like this segment. And it was like, okay, cool. So I spent every part of it being like, but I didn't like the Tegan Nox segment. So there's like 5 comments being like, Luke's an idiot because he didn't like this segment. Can't believe it. How dare he not like that segment? Anyway, someone left a comment about the Tegan Nox thing, being like, I don't know what you want them to do. You can't just have 15-minute bangers every week. And I'm like, yes, they can. Like that's not an argument.
Like if you want to. It's just, and I think this is the thing. I almost want at some point to do like, I want to sit everybody down for a sermon and I have a little cork board with the show beats and the ad breaks all laid out. But like, this is what the show looks like. By tweaking this and putting this here and letting this happen here, you can create space for these matches to take place. It's actually very simple.
Like I read that comment and I saw a pause and I was like, yeah, they can.
Yeah.
And then I turned to Tempest like, Tempest, am I mad here? And then Tempest read it. It was like, they could easily do that. Like, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And
you want to be... There are some functional matches that you have to get to progress the story on weekly television, but there's no reason why you can't chuck a load of minutes and give them time to really represent.
you're clearly trying to get Tegan Nox over. Like that's the aim of this, is to get Tegan Nox over. That's a good thing to do, by the way, because Tegan Nox is a great talent. She has wrestled for 4 minutes across 2 weeks. That's not going to get someone over. Not only that, they're 4 minutes competitive. Yeah. This was a competitive 2-minute match. It's not going to get her over. Like, Chad Gable got over because A, wrestling consistently, but B, wrestling long and showing off what you can do. If you're doing that in 90 seconds, it does not get over. And I called last week an abject failure, and I will say it again. It's an abject failure because look what happened. This crowd did not respond to this segment at all. And why should they?
I think abject failure is a little harsh.
No, I'm only saying that because the aim of this is to get Tegan Nox over, and she's not over. And that's now 2 weeks where you've not gotten her over. That is an abject failure.
I just think, I don't know, it's just this thing of like, it's only been a couple of weeks. I think...
4 minutes?
Give me a second. I'm trying to formulate my sentence here. Goodness me, someone's feeling spicy today.
Of course I'm feeling spicy though. I'm next to you.
And Tony Khan's over there. He's with a big pile of cash being like, yes, bury them more. Like,
you haven't said anything bad about this show for a while. Say something bad.
And it's the women's division.
Show them why I don't care about women's wrestling.
No, the frustrating thing is, I think it's like they don't get the opportunities. So when they do come out, and yes, it is competitive, but they do show some good stuff. I wish they had more time. When it's the idea of it being an abject failure, it's who the failure then gets put on someone like Tegan Nox. I think not by you. I know you're not saying that, but the failure, when we talk about these things as being a failure and they're not over, it kind of pushes Tegan Nox out of the way a little bit, and it frustrates me because it's like, they're really good. Like, they're good wrestlers. And this idea is that, and it's, people do pop it in the comments, and people do say it in the chat, and people do tweet it at me for some reason, that thinking that they're going to get one over when they tweet it at me, saying that people don't care about women's wrestling, and objectively women's wrestling isn't as good. And I'm here to tell you it's bullshit, because there are 52% of the population is made up of women. A lot of them, especially the ones who are wrestling fans, care about women's wrestling and equal representation. And the reality of the situation is, as long as women's wrestling is presented in 4-minute bursts, with not a lot of time given to it, you aren't going to convince people that it's worth paying that attention to. You aren't going to, and then it's like, well, see, it's this thing we've always said about in AEW's division, which is like, well, you know, they don't get over, they're not over, they're not much. Well, it's because you're not giving them the opportunity to get over, and that's where it's frustrating. It's too early for me to call it an abject failure. That's, I think, why I'm stuck on those words. I think she's only had 2 matches on Raw since being drafted to Raw. So, like, give her a minute.
Okay, counterpoint. Yeah. And I will use AEW as an example here. Honestly, the point you made earlier, those people are never going to have their minds changed.
Right, yeah.
Because you can literally give them statistics that show that what they're saying is not true. Like, you know, Julia Hart's segments on Collision are drawing higher than other people's segments. Becky Lynch versus Tiffany Stratton is doing better numbers than other things in NXT. A lot of that's partly down to Becky Lynch, but that's also Tiffany Stratton as well. The counter to your point, AEW, and this is AEW we're talking about, got Julia Hart over in 2 weeks. And to the point where at WrestleDream, she was among the most over things on that show. And the crowd was as hot for her as they were for Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. having their match. Because they gave her some time and they got her over in a couple of weeks. And if AEW can get someone over in their women's division that they don't care about, that means I don't think this is working. And again,
that's a fair counter.
Nothing on Tegan Nox. And anytime I say like that's not getting them over, it's not on them. It is on the people in charge that are not giving them the opportunity to get over.
Yeah, I think that's the distinction though, that we know when we talk about it, but the wider commentariat of the people in the comments don't really think about it. Also, they put the blame on the people.
So it's a 2-minute match, and it's your one women's match on the card.
Yeah, that's bollocks.
Drew McIntyre came out for a promo and it was interrupted by The Miz. May as well have just done Miz TV then. And it led... do you know what? I'm indifferent on the Miz segment. Then Drew McIntyre beat The Miz in a match that went longer than the Tegan Nox match. Even though The Miz was in a suit doing comedy.
Yeah, look, even I'll concede. I am allowed in like opinions on the Miz, and even I'll concede this was rubbish. Like this was not great.
Oh, well, look, he's finally come around.
It's not the Miz's fault. What did we just say about it? It's the people booking, not the people in the ring. No, it was like he just came out. He basically said it like he didn't listen to what Drew said. Ultimately, this segment was designed to get over this new McIntyre change. He went to do the Claymore. He did the 3-2-1, which is the crowd popper, and then just didn't give it to them. Followed up with the. First of all, he got out his sword like he was about to behead the Miz. Then he went over to pull off the...
He did distract the referee so he could continue removing the turnbuckle that the Miz, the heel, had
done, which is a heel thing. And then he used, objectively, a less good finish to, like, it's like, I'm not going to give you the move you want to see. It's like when Chris Jericho turned heel and went full Nick Bockwinkel in 2007-8. He wanted to change his theme tune. He wanted to change his entrance. He wanted to change everything about his presentation so that like the Dudley Boys did it once when they were like, we're going to be heels now. We're not going to get the tables out for you. And then they gave up on it. But the idea being that you want to see this, well, I'm not going to give it to you. That's what a heel should do. And then he says like, oh, I said sorry now. I'm forgiven. And goes away. And that's kind of like a shot at the idea that just because Jay said sorry, he should be forgiven. I thought that part of it was actually really effective.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. The lead up to it, though, was nonsense.
The Miz promo?
Yeah.
When he went...
I was like, that was the moment where I went, oh, Luke's not liking that. I laughed, but,
honestly, I've made no notes on it. Actually, my note on this was, and this is very WWE, the crowd really enjoyed Shut Up Miz last week. So they were like, well, let's just do that segment again
26 times.
Because then we can, that's going to be the new over thing that we're going to do in every city we go to, and everyone's going to enjoy doing Shut Up Miz.
It's really funny how much they love things that get over organically unless it's a wrestler.
I enjoyed Drew McIntyre in this. I thought he was very, very good. And then we got a recap of Dom losing his title to Trick Williams, and Not Kathy interviewed Trick Williams. And I thought he actually did a really decent little promo here.
He looked great. He delivered it great.
Dominic and Judgment Day walked up to announce that, it's Dom versus Trick on NXT tonight, but Dominic won't be alone. The rest of Judgment Day will be there. Judgment Day and Becky Lynch on the show. Is it TV rights negotiation season by any chance? They could, honestly... have at it. Absolutely, you should do it. Should be doing this more often anyway.
Yeah.
But the idea is they can, this show should really do a good number. You can go to USA or potentially other suitors and tell them, look, we can get as good as ratings as the company that just got $1 billion deal for the same numbers. So we also want $1 billion.
And to go back to what we were talking about a little bit with the idea of Tegan Nox and not being given the time and things like that. There is an argument that I suppose you could make where you're like, well, you're giving these developmental titles to actually massive stars, and is that detracting from NXT or whatever? The counter to that is something that Becky's talked about a lot recently, which is that women of her generation didn't have the people who had paved the way to wrestle with, because a lot of those women, first of all, weren't given... they weren't treated very seriously. They weren't trained very seriously, with the exception of your Litas and your Trishes and your Molly Hollies and Beth Phoenix. There was always a handful. Ivory, Jacqueline.
The majority of them were fitness models that you then taught how to wrestle.
And the ones who weren't were gone and not given the respect.
And you train them to wrestle 90-second matches in evening gowns or in pools of gravy.
Whereas you're Kevin Owens could come up and have a program with John Cena immediately, or and Kevin Owens had great pedigree anyway, but then it's well, now you know the WWE style, and now you're ready for the big time with John Cena.
It's more or less a case of I put you in the ring with a massive star, and it makes you look the same level of star,
and that's what's happened with Tiffany Stratton for me. Becky went, I'm going to use my Becky Lynchdom to go down to NXT and showcase all of these women and give them ring time, and did it with. Did she have a match with Lyra Valkyrie, or was that?
She was in the corner of Lyra Valkyrie,
right?
Yeah, or it might have done a tag match. I can't quite remember now.
Right. But I've just Lyra Valkyrie and Taya Valkyrie became one in my head for a second there. But yeah, she's doing that. That's what the intention has been for Tegan Nox for the past 2 weeks, is for her to have a decent showcase against Becky Lynch. The same, but Tiffany Stratton looks like an absolute star. She's as awesome. A result of this. I haven't even seen the match yet, and from the way people are speaking about her,
I completely agree with you. For Tiffany was already on the cusp of everyone was kind of paying attention to her. I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people were paying attention to the great work that Tiffany was doing as champion. Becky Lynch has just pushed it into the next level.
That's what it should do.
And it's not even like incremental. It was like honestly, jumped up 5 levels in terms of like now people are gifting her, the prettiest moonsault ever. Then there was this big debate over the weekend of just like who had the better moonsault. Is it Tiffany Stratton or is it Julia Hart? Again, that's more of that Julia Hart is just like they've done a really good job of getting her over the last few weeks. And like really, I don't think it's much of a question. They're both very nice.
Yeah.
If you put a gun to my head, I would say it's Tiffany Stratton's. Have you seen it? It's like
the hang time on it.
Well, it's Christopher Daniels' moonsault, but with an extra jump. Like it's literally the best moonsault ever +1.
Yeah.
So it's a better moonsault ever. Whereas like Julia Hart's is like I feel like she's gonna crack her face on the top turnbuckle. She gets no distance. But I think Becky's done amazing work for her in particular. And if she stays as champion and she can get back fit and healthy soon, she can do it with loads of other people down there. It is nothing but good things. I remember when she went down there and she won the title, we were like, oh, burying the division. Nope, absolutely not at all. She is helping that division massively.
Yeah, and I think that's why it feels more like old NXT to me, because it does feel like the future is now. It does feel. I looked at Trick Williams bring this title out, and I went, oh. And then mentioned Ilya Dragunov in the match with Gunther and Ciampa, and I was like, yeah, this feels
this
like
is what we've been asking for NXT for years. We were asking for this in 2015. It was like, why isn't there more integration? Because Vince didn't know what it was. But it was like, why aren't we doing more integration? And then I was like, this is what you should be doing with NXT. It's kind of what they did in the early days of ECW when they relaunched that. So it's just like, every few years, like Batista's on the show, Ric Flair's on the show, the great Carly's going to be on the show, John Cena's on the show for like the first 4 weeks, Edge was on the show for the first 5 weeks. You're using these main roster stars to get over some of these newer guys. And that's exactly what you should be doing with this. And I think it's a big old thumbs up from me. And that's your Fun Dudley Boys thing.
Sure.
Because you mentioned them earlier about like wanting to be heels. Didn't want merch in ECW. Merch was like a big thing. It's like, we're heels.
We shouldn't have merch.
Why would I want people to buy my t-shirt? And at Barely Legal 97, which was their first pay-per-view, that the whole thing was kind of built around Terry Funk. Spoilers, Terry Funk wins the title on that show. They had an honorary dinner for Terry Funk the night before. Paul Heyman specifically requested, and they agreed to this, that the Dudley Boys shouldn't be there because they're the baddies.
Wow.
And they shouldn't be at an honorary dinner for Terry Funk. So like the Dudleys and Joel Gertner and like, Sign Guy Dudley and I think Big Dick might have been in prison, but like, but I was like, they are not going there because they're heels. And they don't want anyone to see me. Like, what if they see me having a chat with Tommy Dreamer?
Kayfabe, brother.
Exactly. You don't get heels like that. And the last thing...
Because we cheer them. That's why.
And the last thing we get to talk about here... I get him on the show, I guess, but... Cody Rhodes came out for a promo where he said literally nothing. Apart from, it was like, I'm going to be on SmackDown. Brand split, LOL. And I was like, that was it.
Could have been a tweet.
It's proper like, could have been an email.
Yeah.
I don't know why we needed to actually get onto a Zoom for this.
Yeah.
Time filler.
Got to see Jackie's full outfit though. It was very nice.
I'd just say you could probably give this time to Tegan Knox.
Yeah, a little bit. That's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Like, it's using your time better. Even if you have this promo backstage where there's no entrance necessary, you get, because we've already had Cody in the
yes, but then the crowd don't get to go, whoa.
And they cut them off earlier on at the start. You see that.
And you might not be able, we don't know the next time they're going to be in that town to be able to do the whoa. So you need to be able to give them. Like, when we watch 2000s Raw, every single show has Too Cool and Rikishi doing the dance. Because they're like, well, Boston didn't get to do it last week because it was, I'm trying to think of another American town.
Providence.
Bumble Balls. Bumble Balls, Florida got to do it last week.
I bet it's beautiful this time of year.
But, so it's Boston this week, and then we need to go to Doodly Dee, the other, over in Michigan. So, like, so every week
could be a place in Michigan.
Every week you need to do Too Cool and Rikishi doing the dance. Every week you need to have Cody come out so you can at least, so the crowd can go, whoa. You need to have Dominic come out so the crowd can boo.
So let him do it at the beginning and give 50 more seconds to Tegan Knox.
Anyway, that was the show.
Yeah,
I thought it was a totally fine episode of the show with a very, very good main event.
I had a good time. I really enjoyed it. I see, as we've walked through it, I do see the criticism, and I think some of them are quite fair. But generally speaking, while I was sat watching the show, I enjoyed all the segments. I enjoyed what they achieved. I enjoyed what they set out to do, and I thought they all delivered. I thought the Judgment Day stuff delivered. I thought the Drew stuff really delivered. I thought the main event was absolutely banging. It's a thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed it.
So some of them, like, Joel Gertner was a heel. Of course he was a heel.
I don't know who that is.
Joel Gertner, the quintessential stud muffin.
Oh
man, you've got Joel Gertner promos. Like, when I was a teenager, like, Joel Gertner promos were my jam. I thought he was the funniest dude. He was a proper greasy looking dude. Me and Tempest on the WrestleTalk Extra episode we did, he said he looks like the guy that sort of, you know, you will see him down at a strip club, but he thinks the women do actually like him. Wears a suit but no shirt, and he's really hairy, and he's just like, oh, it's gross, but he's great. Love Joel Gertner. Joel, if you're watching, hello. I think you were great. Anyway, let's get into the rest of your UltraChats. Actually, sorry. I've completely forgotten. Hold on one second. You stop there a second.
Where are you going? Well, I hate it when he does these shoot things on me, because I'm always a little bit... Hello!
We've got a book.
Oh, a book?
We've got a brand new book.
Wrestling Unmasked, ripping the mask off the crime, politics, and intrigue beyond the ring.
And you know what? Why don't you just take my word for it? Take this word for it.
Man, I wish this book went behind the curtain and showed me all the fascinating aspects of wrestling we fans don't get to see in the ring.
I know what Tempest's thinking. He's thinking he wishes his book took a deep dive into some of wrestling's biggest controversies, giving insight into the murkier side of the sport we know and love.
I know that look in Pete's eyes. He's keen to know more about the ongoing controversy of unionization in wrestling. And his right eye is even more keen to delve into the issues that have shaped the modern pro wrestling landscape.
Man, Tempest is really staring at me. Wait, maybe he's wishing his book critiqued wrestling's institutions and was more of a testament to those who fight not just inside the ring, but outside the ring too.
I wish I could read.
Gentlemen.
God?
What? No, guys. It's me, Dave Bradshaw, the voice of British wrestling and, nay, the world. I've been listening to your internal monologues, and I think I have the answer to all your prayers.
Told you he was God.
Get WrestleTalk's brand new book, Wrestling Unmasked, straight from the pages of WrestleTalk magazine. Wrestling Unmasked is a must-read for all wrestling fans. Head on over to Amazon to pick up your copy now by clicking on the link in the video description below, and prepare for your understanding of the wrestling world to be turned upside down.
Luke, your book is upside down. Never mind.
That's right, that book is available right now on Amazon. Click the link that our moderators will be spamming in the chat. But not only that.
I feel like you're so engrossed in the book.
What if I was to tell you that you can get this book for only £5 on Kindle until the end of the week?
Absolute bargain.
What if I was to tell you, though, you could get a free copy of it? What if I was to tell you you could get a not that one.
Okay.
That needs to stay here.
All right.
What if I could tell you could get a free copy of it that's signed by the WrestleTalk team?
Huge.
That would probably include you.
We don't know. Freelance. Invited to the parties, but not to the after party.
It depends if you're in the office.
Yeah.
Like if it's, if we're signing them on a Tuesday, then yeah, we'll have you sign it.
Brilliant.
But if it's on, a Thursday when you're not here.
Well, I like to drop in now and again to keep you on your toes.
But yeah, if you want to enter in our competition, support at WrestleTalk.com with the subject heading, I would like a free book, please. We are going to be picking out the winners of that at random next week. This time next week, we'll be announcing the winners. We're giving away 5 signed copies of the book. So get your emails across.
Can I put over Dave Bradshaw briefly?
Of course you can. I'm always here for putting over Dave Bradshaw.
It's just really smart and really, he writes brilliantly. So do it.
I'm also going to shout out Dave Bradshaw because I mentioned the ZX Spectrum earlier in the office and no one had a clue what I was talking about, but Dave just went, I know.
Dave knows everything. I have no idea what you just said. What? ZX Spectrum.
The ZX Spectrum, a Specky?
That sounds like that to me sounds like an arena in
Lexington, Kentucky.
That's what I'm talking about. Here we are from Monday Night Raw, the ZX Spectrum in Lexington, Kentucky. Like, do you remember the KFC Yum Center? Like,
no. Ugh. Anyway, let's get into the rest of your Alpha chats. And Ben Vlerick is going to kick things off with so Gunther's IC title match with Gable was the Raw after Payback. Now the one with Ciampa is the Raw before Fastlane. Does Triple H not want him to defend the title on pay-per-view, or just not on B pay-per-views? Great for Raw, but it makes those B pay-per-views even more B tier. Triple H most likely means well, having Gunther have great title matches on Raw and only defending on important pay-per-views, but it still rubs me the wrong way. I wanted that match at Fastlane, but it's not on actual pay-per-view, so they got my money already, I guess.
I'm just gonna point out, I'm not trying to call you out, Ben Vlerick. I see what point you're making, and it is something that I thought about when they pointed out that this match, they seem to say, like, do you know what happened on Raw or whatever? They didn't even really seem to mention Fastlane at any point as a potential place for this to go, so I did have that thought as well. What you've just said here was, it rubs me the wrong way because I wanted the match on Fastlane, but we got it on Raw instead. You still got the match. Like, we got the match, and there is an argument to be made about the adverts in the middle of it, disrupting the flow. That does sometimes feel secondary. There is something about a pay-per-view shine that does make the match mean something. So I do understand that part of it as well. But A, at least we got the match, and B, the other thing that's really interested me about what you've written here is great for Raw, but it makes these B pay-per-views feel even more B tier. The lack of an Intercontinental title match makes a pay-per-view feel less. Isn't that interesting when that belt was not defended on pay? Maybe it's continuing the long tradition of the Intercontinental title not being defended at pay-per-views. But yeah, I just find that a really interesting thought. The idea that Gunther has built this belt so much that its absence on a pay-per-view makes it feel less than.
But, you know, I think you could say for the same with Seth. Like, if Seth wasn't on this, I don't think it would be like, ooh, that's made it feel like a B show.
I mean, I don't think that's going to be the main event.
No, the tag match is going to be the main event.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cody, of course. I mean, Cena. Bizarro Big L said, appreciate the review, guys, but I'm glad I missed Raw. Not that much talking is straight up bollocks. I'm still singing Metalingus, and I just want better matches overall. The repeat storylines and the one group juggling the majority of the gold is still getting tiring. Jam that jam. Bizarro Big L, watch the main event.
Yeah.
Because it was really good.
Do.
Bailey R said, can we mention how Michael Cole has only missed 2 shows in 26 years? The man's work dedication is absolutely insane. Getting his flowers is nice to see.
Yeah, I go back to watch some of that Cruiserweight Classic where the shackles were off a little bit for him.
The UK tournament as well.
Yeah.
It was great. Him and Nige working together on that was really, really good. I've only had 2 sick days in my my time here. Yeah.
Have you ever taken, not even in your time here, have you ever taken off a sick day just for lols?
No, I the 2 times I was not able to come in, it was like I actually came in on one of the days that I was then sent home because I was like feverish, and they were like, you should not be here. So
I had that as well. I went to work once and they were like, you're green. I was like, but there's only 4 of us on shift, and they were like, don't care, there'll be none of us if you stay.
I came in, I was like, I've got who will review Raw.
Yeah, so what I want to do is go into a small windowless room and sit right next to someone else for hours.
And it's like, no, go
away.
I was like, okay, that's probably for the best that I go home, actually. Homer Star fan here said, really excited to see Gargano back, but I feel like this match and moment should have been at the pay-per-view. The card feels like a lot of nothing, and I feel like a Gunther match would have been a great addition to the show. Only 5 matches on the card. We'll have our Fastlane predictions going up tomorrow. York Master here says, top guy in WWE is Roman. When WWE is in a rut... When AEW was in a rut, Moxley got them out of it. Gunther is top champ on Raw. Becky main evented WrestleMania, not Seth. When he got top prize as a face, he crumbled. Seth wants to be Cena so bad, but the best he can be is Triple H. Damn, Dad. Is that what your dad said that?
I'm confused by the who said this? Because it's in quotation marks.
Well, I'm assuming Dad. His dad. York Master's dad said
Or did you say that at some point because you're DAD?
Oh, I don't think I've ever said that. I mean, I agree. That's like, so I'm talking about WrestleTalk Extra a lot, but I called Shane Douglas the Triple H of ECW. Always having the longest match, and it's the worst one. And I see, yes, Seth wants to be the top guy so bad, but at best he's Triple H.
The thing, well, that's, I mean, I love Triple H, so I'm too biased to really say anything about it. That's funny. Tony Khan sat over there in one corner and Triple H is in the other one. They're both just staring daggers at. They get
nice things about me.
Once the show's finished, they go off for a Starbucks together. They have a great time.
Yeah, they
just want to pit us against each other.
Yeah, they teleport away.
Yeah, happy days. But yeah, it is fascinating when Seth Rollins is made the top babyface. He remains one of the top 5 workers that company has, like in ring work.
I don't think he is anymore. Honestly, you and I talked about this before, but there was a period of time where I would have said, yeah, he's top 5 in the whole company. I don't think he's top.
You think he's been leapfrogged at this point?
I don't think he's top 10.
Wow.
I think there are a lot of people in that company.
Name them.
Gunther.
He's going to do it.
Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes, Ilya Dragunov. I think Tyler Bate is doing better work than Seth Rollins is. Who else we got here?
You're missing one quite big one. Well, actually, it's quite short.
Chad Gable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that little Shorty G. I remembered Shorty G yesterday, and I was like, Jesus.
Have I said Gunther yet?
Yeah, you said him right at the beginning.
Right, of course I said him right at the beginning. Yeah. And I've only really done Raw. I haven't even done SmackDown yet. LA Knight. Actually, no, I don't say LA Knight's a better worker than he was, just more over than he is at the moment. Balor.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Priest. I think he's doing better work than Seth is at the moment.
In ring?
Again, I'm only on Raw at the moment. Jey Uso. I think he's a better in-ring worker than Seth Rollins is.
Fascinating how that comes about.
Yeah.
When everyone else...
Honestly, I could say Pete Dunne.
Right.
Pete Dunne's a better worker than Seth
When everyone else starts raising their game, you kind of have to raise yours along with it, especially if you are the face of the company. I really think I don't think there are many people who care about it as much as he does.
No.
You know,
he's passionate.
Really passionate.
Really passionate.
And that's why I'm like frustrated on his behalf in a way.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's fine, but like...
Will Campbell says, "Hi lads, I'm with Dan in this one. I really enjoyed this episode, and I popped on my couch when Johnny returned after that banger of a main event. Imperium vs DIY should also be an absolute banger. Also, glad you guys like No Mercy because I thought it was dead bloody good."
Yeah.
The Guilty Hats here said, "I'm sorry, Dan. It's harsh to tell you to stay out of Wales. You tried, and that's more than most of Wales. You're one of the good ones. Agreed fully on the Tegan.
Jolk.
Agreed fully on the Tegan idea."
If she's watching, she's going to leave me.
Agreed fully on the Tegan idea. Have her on NXT tonight, refusing to be looked over instead of the natty turn that we'll get. Kendall Avian says, "I think the seed was planted for Carmelo Hayes to turn heel at No Mercy. After he congratulated Williams, he continued to glance at the title. I think he acts as if he was going to help, and in his swerve, he's going to cost him the title." Being Trick Williams, of course. You are the Raven said, "I just want to have a moment to appreciate Nigel's commentary. Christian has done more for turtlenecks. Christian has done for turtlenecks like what Britney Spears has done for invisible thongs. He's the best heel commentator in the business."
Yeah, I think so. Okay, Wade Barrett said some funky things on commentary at one point on this broadcast of Monday Night Raw in the year of our Lord 2023. Wade Barrett said "Shimon." Like, I need that to not go unaddressed.
Wade Barrett, about the same sort of age that I am as well, proper loved Bo Selector.
That's what it is. And I'm like, come on, good lord.
Stick on that Bo Selector DVD, will you? We'll watch it again. I like it when he does the Craig David one.
He also said at one point, he was like talking about, like, and Cole is putting him over and he's like, we have a 6-time Intercontinental Champion with us here in Wade Barrett. And Barrett's like, yeah, the greats held this belt. Not that I'm saying I'm one of the greats. Back yourself, babe. Go on. But yeah, Nigel is brilliant. And it's so. But I'm glad we do have a recorded bit of history where we have Nigel McGuinness and Michael Cole together in posterity.
I would also recommend watching the 8-man tag that's on Collision. They bollocks the ending.
Yeah.
Because there was like, can the referee can it like it's a shoot, and then it didn't, and bollocks an ending.
Right.
But it's for Nigel McGuinness and Zack Sabre Jr. doing commentary together.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
It's beautiful. There's a moment where Zack's just going, ring, 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 ring. Oh, what's that over there? Zach, what's that? Sorry, it's my phone. I've just got to answer my phone here. Do you mind? No, you go ahead, mate. Go ahead. Yeah, what's that? What's that? Who is it, Zach? Who is it? Oh, it's Bryan Danielson. He's phoning it in.
Very good.
The Mayor of Painesville Dan here says, on women's wrestling, great stuff, Dan. Totally agree. At the AEW Cinema event I went to, someone was complaining that 3 women's matches were on the card, and he left and occasionally came back to dump on it. Women belong in wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's the kind of example of someone who's not going to change their mind because they haven't made up. And actually, I find that quite pathetic. And I've turned a corner, Luke. Mm-hmm. I've decided to stop trying to please everybody in my life. I'm a desperate people pleaser. You might have noticed, but I'm not going to try and please the people who are a bit anti-feminist. Do you know why? Because women are people too.
That guy Sai says, do the video, Dan. I'd like to see it. Better yet, make it a running series.
Oh, actually, maybe I will. Maybe I was thinking of making rosé and wrestling a real thing at some point, so maybe one day I will.
Well, you mix the red wine, you mix the white
Stop
wine.
it.
Mix them at the same time. It's Tummy Rosé. And a note from Modmother here asking why my Triple H impression sounds a bit like Macho Man.
It does. It does.
No, Macho Man is a bit more up here.
And now do Macho Man. That was really sharp of me. Give me some praise.
That was very good. Let's get ready to suck it.
Now do Triple H. Okay, let's do this too.
Let's get ready to suck it.
That's Triple H.
No, yes, Triple H could go much higher at the end with the suck it.
Okay, I can't. Oh my god. That's made the best of already.
And also shout out to Jerome Ulster, who's become a brand new member.
Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you very, very much. Right, let's end the poll and see what you thought of this show. Ooh, it's a bit split. A bit like, not like last week's episode, certainly the week before, I would say. Because the poll is ended and it is 51% thumbs up, 40% thumbs in the middle.
I mean, that's... what are the numbers?
So 51 thumbs up.
It's a win. It's a Brexit win for victory, for good, is what we're saying.
It's what Raw always wanted.
Yeah.
Also, someone said that sounds more like Lemmy from Motorhead. I haven't got the
If you like to gamble, I
was going to say I don't think I've got the throat capacity to do a Lemmy. If you like to. I can tell, because I absolutely rub it. I bollocks that.
The thing is, the mouth comes forward for all of it.
Well, you have to, because it's on the throat.
Oh my god.
God, the amount of times I would wake up on Sunday mornings with the most hoarse voice possible, because me and my mates had been down at the face bar in Reading screaming Ace of Spades.
I once made myself breathless to the point of nearly passing out by doing a Julia Child impression.
Yeah.
Because she talks and takes a lot of breaths, and I did it so long that I was like lightheaded for a while. So I relate.
Well, the best Lemmy impression to do is when they do Triple H's entrance at WrestleMania X70 if he gets all the lyrics.
It's all about the game.
It's all about the game. And now you play it.
It's all about the game. And now you play
it. Anyway, that's all we've got time for on this edition of the broadcast. Go get our new book. Our moderators are spamming a link for it, and it's linked to in the video description down below. And enter our competition, restore.com/support, with the subject heading, I want a free book, please, because we're giving away 5 signed copies for absolutely nought. So get involved with that. We're going to be back tomorrow with our Fastlane predictions, and then back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. Until then, I've been Luke Owen, DAD. I've been joined by the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton. Jam that jam.